It's the end of week 7, and this week we only had one class, and it was the class in which Dr. James Jordan came to talk to us because Dr. Abrahams is off campus doing other things. But Dr. Jordan came to talk to us about Laban and his way of notating movement, which actually originated so that dancers could write down choreography and give it to other dancers, and so that they could read it and know exactly what they were talking about. So basically, like a universal movement notation of sorts. But yeah, Dr. Jordan started off the class by asking us how many joints we have in our arm, and then proceeded to tell us about the joints. And we actually have 4. We have the shoulder, which he told us actually begins, I believe, like right about here. We have the elbow, we have the wrist, and we have the collarbone. And I thought it was really cool because I've never really noticed it before, but if you put your hand right here where your collarbone ends and you move your arm, you can feel it. So that was pretty cool. And he told us that when we're conducting, it's really, really important to be aware of the energy in our central core. And he basically went on to tell us it's really important that we don't cross the midline. And he explained why we should not cross midline, and that's because when you stay on one side of your body using the arm or whatever limb on that side of the body, you're using one side of the brain. And when you cross the midline, it causes the other side of your brain to kick in, which just causes everything to get confusing. So a lot of times the pattern will get messed up. And he also told us, or we'll talk about prep beats, and he admitted that he does something that most conductors would tell us not to. He said that he puts an ictus before the prep beat to tell us when to breathe. And I actually he showed us the difference between what he did, and I guess the point of him doing that is because sometimes when you do your prep beat's coming up, so therefore the breath is going to be a little bit higher, and if you do the prep beat, or if you show the ictus and then the prep beat, your breath is going to be a little bit lower, and therefore your sound's going to be more supported. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So yeah, we talked about Laban notation, which is how to notate dance. And Dr. Jordan told us that Laban segmented the body into different sections, and each section was actually covered by crystals. And in his drawings, and these crystals were, I guess, made it a geometric system of looking at the body. And he arranged the crystals according to how they would be arranged geometrically in nature. So I thought that was pretty interesting. He also talked about our forearms, and he talks about the 3 different planes, and there's the table plane or the line of ictus, and in order to maintain this plane, your forearm should always be parallel to the floor. And then he went to talk about the door plane, which is the vertical surface in front of you, and whatever your pattern is that you're using should align with this plane. And then there's the wheel plane, which is like the elliptical motion with your arms. Because of the shape of your arms can't make a perfect circle when you move them. So your conducting gesture should fit within the 3 planes that I just talked about. Let's see. Oh, Laban uses 4 different terms. There's flow, weight, time, and space. And each of these different terms has 2 extremes. So for flow, it's either free or bound. For weight, it's either heavy or light. For time, there's quick or sustained. And for space, there's direct space, which is like a straight line, or curvilinear and legato, which is indirect, essentially. And for all the movements that Laban writes about, he gives you them in terms of space, weight, and time. And the space, weight, and time together gives you flow. So essentially, I can change your sound by what I do with my hands, and based on how heavy or light I conduct, or how fast or slow I conduct, or if I conduct direct or indirect. And he says that Laban's most important, point in this is that he's not marking choreography, but movement imagination. So I guess everybody's going to interpret a little bit of their own way, but this is going to help it be more unified, so that everybody kind of knows what you're talking about. And Dr. Jordan also said that when you're conducting and you need to add more weight, it's important that you add the weight in the palm of your hand and not with your arms or with your fingers. And he demonstrated this by actually giving us rocks, and we had to conduct with different sized rocks. And it was funny because he actually had a rock for different composers in different pieces. So that was kind of interesting because I never really thought about the weight that I put in my hand while I was conducting. But that was a cool exercise. And that is pretty much our class. I thought it was really interesting to have an outside input besides Dr. Abraham's. And being that I sing under Dr. Jordan, it was kind of interesting to see what goes into his thought processes when he's preparing pieces to conduct for the choirs that he conducts. But yeah, it was pretty cool, and that was this week.